I'm Jeff Fritz with SoundStage.com, and I'm joined today by Dan Roemer. He is the CEO of Perlisten Audio, and they are based just outside of Madison, Wisconsin. Dan, how are you today?
Doing great, great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I appreciate you being here, and we want to jump in and talk a little bit about your company. You guys have made quite the splash, I would say, in the past year. But I don't think everybody knows kind of the background story behind Perlisten Audio. So tell us a little bit about how you began and how you began your company.
Sure, sure. So, I like to say Perlisten's, the people that develop Perlisten are audio nuts. What I mean by audio nuts, or how to define an audio nut, it's someone who, once you get into audio, you're hooked, and you'll never leave, right? So, at some level, you're always going to be working in the audio field, whether it's engineering or sales or marketing or even just as a hobbyist. But you're an audio nut when you catch that bug. The depth of it is, no matter how busy you are, no matter how much you got going on, no matter how overwhelmed you are, you always find a way to take on the next audio thing and try and figure it out, whatever it is, a new technology or just a new product or whatever. And that's the foundation of Perlisten. So we have essentially 5 guys that over the years we got together, somewhat different backgrounds. 3 of us are all engineers and developed transducers, did a lot of high-level simulations, always trying to create the next thing, whether it's loudspeaker or electronics or software. We have a lot of experience in all those disciplines. And the 3 of us have worked together over time doing consulting. And the consulting side is actually a great portal, I guess, to exploring different ideas in hi-fi. Meaning, when you're working with a customer, they have their ideas and they definitely have their goals, and your job is to take whatever technology, whatever knowledge and work with those goals. And what that makes you do is kind of think outside the box, and you're not stuck in just one thing over time. So in the course of the last 20 plus years, we've been able to work on a really, really wide variety of projects and challenges. And the challenges are really what then creates new ideas. And so that's the engineering backbone of Perlisten. And then, so let's say about 6 years ago, we joined forces with a factory in Asia. The idea was that after manufacturing all around the world, we've done manufacturing in United States, Canada, Mexico, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines. I probably forgot a few places. The one thing that came true was to find a development partner that also was an audio nut, and that's exactly what we found. So the main owner, Peter Yang is his name. He's an absolute audio nut. He plays guitar, audiophile. He's always working new products and new ideas. So instantly we knew we had a match, and that marriage, the idea behind that marriage is that you can take an engineering group and you match them to a manufacturing group that has the same ideals and principles, and then now you can manufacture what you're thinking, and then taking it to the next level, training the engineers on site, having duplicate test systems, things like that. That's really the lion's share of what we did over the last 6 years. So I realized Perlisten's a new brand, and we just came to market just over a year ago. But so those last 6 years, we were setting up the engineering, the manufacturing, and doing a lot of research on the product side on what ultimately is what you see in the S series. Fast forward a couple more years, and that's when we went public with, not public, but we opened up to the public that Perlisten Audio is a brand. That's when we asked Lars Johansson and Naveen Kumar to join us on the marketing, sales, and the global strategy side, and that kind of completed. So we had the engineering background, manufacturing background, now sales and marketing background with a global experience. So that was a really good match for the brand. And so that completed Perlisten, and that's who we are today. Yeah, that was a pretty long explanation, but it's been in the works for over 20 years, really. We've always ultimately knew we were going to do our own brand. So.
Well, no, and that's a really good overview, because I know from an outsider's perspective looking in at your brand, when you guys came to market, it looked extremely mature from a brand standpoint from day one. And really that's kind of where I want to go next is into the product line, because the product line, and I know it's expanded a little bit, but the product line from day one was pretty complete. You guys have got subwoofers. You've got two main lines of loudspeakers, which is what I want to talk about next. You have the S series speakers, which are the flagship models. You have the R series that sits right below those, but that have some of the same core technologies. Tell us about the S series and the R series and what differentiates those two product lines.
Okay. Yep. And I'll just touch on the why we came to market with so many models at once. When we were defining our brand out of the gates, are we going to be a speaker company? Are we going to be a subwoofer company? Are we going to be a two-channel company? Are we going to be a home theater company? And the more we talked about it internally, and then even talking to key people all around the world that sell, they're like, come with a solution. And it really made sense, rather than go to a trade show with the next loudspeaker to save the world and have nothing else to back it up, right? And, you know what I mean when I say that, right?
I do. I so do.
So yeah. So when you come with a solution, now your brand is attacking all those markets with really well-designed products. You don't get pigeonholed as one, and to do a business, people to pick us up, dealers, distributors globally. If you have a full solution, they're very interested. And really that's, from a year ago when we had USA and China distribution, 1 year ago today, roughly, to now we're in 32 different countries around the world. It was a pretty quick uptake. And I put a lot on the fact that we had the solution. So back to your question, S series and R series. So S series and especially the S7 tower, which is our flagship product, is the culmination of the research that we did on not only the transducer design, where we've worked on some new materials, where we teamed up with Techstream and the thin flat carbon materials, putting together a lot of our experience on transducer design, hardcore simulations into real world transducers. And then over the years, of course, I've had a lot of experience designing waveguides, and in my opinion, a waveguide or some type of control of vertical, horizontal directivity, and having an idea or a plan in place. That's how a loudspeaker should be designed. So then you're controlling as much as possible how that loudspeaker is going to integrate into a room. Obviously, the room has its own characteristics, but you want to fix the room. You don't want to use room EQ to actually try and fix a speaker. So the better the speaker could perform in the room, the better the outcomes. And that applies equally as much on two-channel as it does for home theater. So we spent a lot of time researching different driver layouts and arrays. We talked specifically to the DPC array. That's where we came up with kind of what I call kind of a crazy idea of having multiple transducers superimposed on a waveguide. And what makes that special is that you get a lot of attributes that we know of a waveguide, right? So you get gain at low frequency, you get horizontal, vertical control, however you define it. I apologize. I've got a couple security. We're gonna have a walk by, so let's just pause for 1 second.
It's no problem. My German Shepherd my German Shepherd and my pound puppy are put away. For exactly that reason. So no, I'm used to it. It's a little bit of real world in the SoundStage video. It's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. We did a video a few weeks ago, and the dogs definitely were superstars.
in stereo.
Yeah, exactly. So apologize for that. So getting back to the DPC array, using the waveguide for its attributes, you can control the directivity, and you can improve the the lower end of what we have in here in this S series of beryllium dome, and we use it to lower distortion and increase efficiency. But then adding the other drivers in there, what we found, we do some heavy level multi-physics simulations, is by putting the other drivers in and working on the placement. So now you're controlling magnitude, phase, time alignment, with physical offset. Now you can really extend the frequency range that you're controlling the dispersion pattern. But then you add another benefit where you have now 3 transducers at the lower end of that array's capabilities, handling all the power, handling the efficiency, right? So the distortion absolutely just goes through the basement. But now, down to just above 1 kilohertz, you've got 3 transducers that, the total moving mass is less than half a gram, right? And there's some really interesting benefits that we didn't really know on the front end that the simulations didn't show. But when you think about it, from a transient standpoint, when you're moving that mass, their ability to react to the musical transients, vocals, whatever you have in the music that you're listening to, that lightweight material really does an amazing job compared to even the best designed, 3, 4, 5 and a quarter, 6.5 inch mid range. You're talking like tenfold difference in moving mass. So you take all that, you take the layout, the array, the moving mass, and now you've really got an interesting new technology. And then what we do is we just expand that with the woofers and apply kind of the same principles to what we've kind of dubbed beamforming, and maybe not in a traditional sense of what you would think, like Wi-Fi or whatever beamforming, but really we are controlling the vertical, and we're trying to control it in as wide of a bandwidth as we can. Why? To eliminate some of those reflections off the ceiling and the floor. Make the vocals in the soundstage much clearer, much more precise, but also still having a wide dispersion pattern so that you are using the room for the warmth that you need to make it sound real. So that's the heart of the S series technology, and there where we applied a lot of the higher end materials. I like to say, like beryllium is just an amazing material. It's a little bit difficult to work with because you have to count for how it implements with the other drivers in the crossover and how it works with the waveguide. But once you figure that out, it's just an amazing material to work with. The thin ply carbon, again, now we're talking probably the next best material that you can use in audio, and you have actually a little bit more control where you can control the layers and the weave on how you manipulate the modal response of each diaphragm. So we use those in the mids in the DPC array, and then even in the mid woofers. And the other benefit is they are much lighter than any other material. So when you're looking at ultimate performance, sensitivity is certainly one of those criteria. So you have to look at sensitivity, bandwidth, linearity, distortion, polar response. You have to look at all those things. And when you have these materials, it opens up what you can do. Dynamic range. So if you have a lighter diaphragm material to start with, you can create a higher excursion driver without the negative effects of too much mass or too much inductance. So it really does open a lot of things that you can do. And so that's the culmination of the S series, and we have various products within that line, starting with the S7 tower, but they're all, the heart of them is the DPC array, and then really just think scale SPL. So it has what we're just introducing now is an S5T. It actually is not, it's in production right now, but it's 5 drivers. That's where the 5 comes from. So 2 mid bass drivers, 2 mid ranges in the tweeter. S5M, S4 bookshelf, and S for surround, we call it. It's an on-raw with an angle on it, so that works really well for all the surround channels and good for the application. So that's the S series. So your next question is, so what is the R series, right?
Well, let me just break in for a second. So one of the things,
no
and you can tell me if I'm correct on this, looking at your website, look and comparing and contrasting, and just so people know, on the Perlisten website, there is a feature where you can compare the models, which is super helpful. The R series speakers they appear to have similar technology, similar design features, but it's a materials reduction
Yeah,
in order to hit a different price point. But what I
absolutely.
like about it is that the design principles are the same. They at least they appear the same from product line to product line.
Yeah, that's an awesome observation, and that's exactly how I would say it is. So once we hit on the S7 tower, and we were happy with that. So that was the longest development time to get that product to where we felt it sounded right, it performed right, everything was clicking. What we came up with on the technical side was what I call our sonic signature. So kind of all those things I touched on, we create a sonic signature um, in the measurement side. So then we have target curves to work with for every product. So in S7, how you look at, if you look at the full battery of CTA 2034 graphs, but then also if you break down it even more granular, how the vertical and how the horizontal are performing, and then roughly the bandwidths of the drivers, that's our sonic signature. So then I take that and apply it to all those other models, even the surround speaker. You try and match those as closely as possible. A while back, I had a customer that was asking about that between an S5M and an S7T, and I level matched, but I showed the 2034 curves, and it's almost amazing. You would think that they were just like two speakers off the same production line, the same model, with the exception of the bandwidth at the low end. So where am I going with that? That's exactly what we did with the R series. So then we looked at, okay, um, beryllium is an amazing material, but it's extremely expensive. The thin fly carbon is also quite expensive. But when you look at paper cones, they're still a fantastic material and perform really, really well. And silk domes as well, or soft domes, however you want to look at it, fabric domes. Those materials are very, very good performance, but cost a fraction of what the Techstream and beryllium are. So that's the first step. Then the second is the cabinet. We're not quite as heavy duty in the cabinet. We're not doing so many layers on the lacquer finish on the painting. We're not offering the veneers. This cabinet sizes are slightly scaled down. So the bandwidths are maybe not quite as per model, not quite as low in frequency, how they extend. But what we didn't do is we didn't skimp too much on the crossover network. And what I mean is to do this technology, that the beamforming that we're talking about, integrating all that, we hold the inductors all to 1% tolerances and stay air core. And then we hold all the other components to 2%, and we use polypropes in the mid and high frequencies and polyesters at the lower frequencies. Our series, we kept the same 1% inductor, 2% capacitor resistors, because to do what we're doing in the crossover design, it requires high precision. But you can use slightly smaller gauges, a little bit more polyester. There's a few things, and the crossover network does come out quite a bit lower. So you kind of take the sum of all those things I said, and what was amazing is we were able to come out with a product where we're trying to match the sonic signature as much as possible, slightly less efficient, but then half the price. So an R7 compared to an S7, roughly 50% the cost, and let's say 85% the performance.
Yeah, well, and that's a great value for your customers. And when you look at those speakers visually, you can certainly see, the design elements are the same or very similar. And so, I appreciate you explaining what those cost differentiators are. That makes perfect sense. Well, looking at the product line, so I know you just mentioned that the S5 is something that will be. Is it available now, or it's coming very soon?
It's coming soon. We're gonna be at Expona in April, and we'll have that on display there. So that'll be its world premiere. We're in production right now, so the availability will be coming, late spring, early summer, as we roll it out.
So the product lines, like I said at the outset, they're very mature and they're very full. So tell us, what is Perlisten going to do next? What does the rest of 22, maybe the
Oh
beginning of
yeah.
23 look like?
So yeah, that So pretty exciting year. We just rounded out the R series. We actually have R series subs now too. So we have 2 lines of subwoofers. Those are just coming to market now. And the S series, we added the center channel and the S5 tower. So those 2 lines are pretty well defined in the cabinet speaker space. And so we just completed the S series in walls, where we have kind of a clone of the cabinet speaker in a pretty heavy duty in-wall product, where they're all enclosed back. We have a aluminum extrusion, but try and incorporate everything that we did in the speakers, again following the same sonic signature. So the S series are just completed, and the R series are in the works right now. So our hope and our plan is to have the R series completed by CEDIA. So then we'll have R series and S series in-wall products to show at CEDIA and available at the end of the year. So we got a pretty heavy duty product plan over the next actually couple of years. There's a lot of stuff we've got cooking for 2023 as well. Probably a little too soon to talk about it, but the in-walls will be certainly exciting and a big part of the development this year.
Well, and I can certainly see what you mean, when a dealer looks at your line, when you offer a complete solution, what that means is that, anywhere that a conventional loudspeaker can be, you guys pretty much have it covered, whether it's, a home theater system with surrounds and a center channel, or in walls, or a mixture of both. And then the way that the design elements carry from model to model, that you're getting a tonally matched speaker, no matter what position a Perlisten speaker is in. So I think that's terrific. And yeah, well, Dan, I really appreciate your time today, and the kind of overview of your company. Just so you guys know, we do have some Perlisten speakers in for review. Our own Hans Wetzel has got a set, and he's got a subwoofer as well. So we look forward to reading about Hans's observations after he gets to listen to them. And Dan, well, that's it. I appreciate your time, and let's get together and talk loudspeakers again soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Take care.